Haven't been eating bagels, so
That's a rough life, man.
it is actually.
Sandstep Citadel will get things started off here for Boswell. Wooded Foothills here for Batista. Again, both players have access to each other's deck list, so they know exactly what they're up against. As Boswell will sacrifice the Flooded Strand, he's down to 19. Look at a basic forest. A little shuffle action here. Might be a little carry at it to start things off this morning for Andrew.
I believe Andre has that as well. Some good man acceleration for both players here.
And there's the carry at it for Boswell. So we'll see if Batista can match it. He's going to go down to 19 with his Wooded Foothills. See if he wants to get a forest or a mountain. I imagine that there is a build of a teamer deck out there. We'll see what it's going to end up being. You know, if Batista's approach is the correct way to go, or if someone else finds something. Again, Brian Kilber working on a version of that deck for the Pro Tour and over the past couple of weeks. So.
If you are trying to beat Obzon, which seems like a good priority given the way the metagame is right now, I think this Planeswalker suite could be a good starting point. I don't know, I'm sure if it should be in a teamer shell, but if you want to play Xenagos and Kiora, that's probably the easiest way to do it.
So you stoke the flames there in Andre's hand. There is a mountain. And he has a carry at it as well. So both players with the necessary mana acceleration. We'll see who can do the more powerful thing with it. As Boswell draws a card, looks like he's got a Courser to play. So here is the 2-4. Take a look at the top card. Copy of Utter End. Does Boswell have a land? He does not. So back to Batista we will go. Batista will draw a copy of Kiora the Crashing Wave.
Now this is interesting for Andre. He has a second Kiora in his hand, so he can cast it, and even if Boswell finds a land, he has a backup if Boswell decides to Utter End it. Or he can kill the Courser right now with Stoke the Flames and try to prevent Boswell from getting 2 mana next turn.
But he's going to sacrifice the fetch line here, go down to 18. He went by a mountain pretty quickly there, so it feels like he's going to go grab a forest, and he does. And it could be a Stoke the Flames in this situation that we see him cast to take care of this Courser.
Another factor here is there's just not that many Stoke targets in Boswell's deck otherwise.
Yeah.
So this is probably where the Stoke the Flames goes regardless.
It's going to be a 4-mana spell, I imagine, either way. You know, Batista does have a copy of Air of the Wilds in his hand, but it seems like the 4-mana spells are the more powerful things that he can be doing. And he's going to go with the Planeswalker. So here is Kiora the Crashing Wave.
Yeah, Andre Eschewed playing the Air in his hand on turn 2 to get a mana accelerant, so.
And he's actually going to draw. Looking for another land, does not find one. Now that Kiora is wide open for Courser to take care of it. Utter End's going to go to the grip. Let's see what Boswell's top card is. It's copy of Sandstep Citadel.
Yeah, this is not ideal here as Boswell has found the land that he needed and is getting rid of this Kiora basically for free.
Yeah.
We know he has Utter End in his hand. Now a downfall at the top, so the Planeswalkers for Andre have gotten a lot worse.
Boswell looks to have an Elvish, excuse me, a Thoughtseize. I thought it might be a Mystic, but it'll be the discard spell. Good idea of the hand here. 2 copies of Stoke the Flames. On the Sylvan Carry added, a Courser, an Air of the Wilds, and a Kiora. Excuse me, that red card in the middle is actually a Stormbreath Dragon. So 2 Stokes, a Stormbreath, a Sylvan Carry added, a Air of the Wilds, and then an additional Kiora.
And the issue here is now with Boswell's hand, you know, there's an Utter End in it. He's drawing a Hero's Downfall. This is shaping up to be a very long game. And Andrew, with this Courser in play, has a huge edge. Also, his deck is just more powerful. There's just better stuff in it, too.
The longer it goes, it seems like the more it favors Boswell. Looks like he's considering Stormbreath Dragon and Kiora at this point. But taking a long look with this Thoughtseize, figure out where this game is going to go.
No real reason to go after Stoke here as Andre has a second one, so he can't protect the Courser. And the other 2 cards there that he set aside are very low impact, so it's Kiora or Stormbreath.
And there's another Thoughtseize. So Thoughtseize demonstrating its power here, taking the 2 best cards. Boswell, of course, lose a little bit of life from that. But now he knows, all right, I have to beat 2 Stoke the Flames, a Sylvan Carry added, Air of the Wilds, whatever comes off the top of your deck. I might be able to do that. Draw step here for Batista as a Shivan Reef. He's going to play that immediately. So every card is known here for Boswell.
And Boswell has a lot of protection for things going wrong here because he has so much just catch-all removal left over after this is all said and done.
There's the Air. There's a carry added. All Batista can do is just pass the turn back. So Boswell's going to draw that Hero's Downfall. Let's see what the top card is now. Sylvan carry added, so not a land. See what Boswell can put together here on his 4th turn of the game.
Even though there's no land, this does allow him the opportunity to cast a second Courser. And since Andre's only follow-up at this point is casting a Stoke the Flames, having a second Courser in play is not bad.
Yeah. He's certainly not underneath any pressure. So he's just going to go with the second Courser and just happily pass the turn back.
I like this play a lot because Boswell, this is a raw card count kind of matchup at this point, and I think getting these Coursers going is very valuable for him.
Batista's draw for the turn was a copy of Stubborn Denial. Very interesting counterspell in this deck, because here's an attack for 2 with the Heir of the Wilds. Boswell kind of looking things over and says, you know, I'm going to block with my Courser. We'll trade here. Get that thing off the table. See if we'll see a Stoke on the other Courser. Batista's been a little bit hesitant to cast that.
Well, I don't know what they're being saved for besides is the thing. I mean, Boswell's at 16, not even close to being burned out.
4 mana is being tapped now, so there is a Stoke to take care of this Courser. So Sylvan Carry added will be the draw for Boswell. He will not find a land for next turn.
And because of all this, I was not a big fan of that block from Boswell. I feel like he can take 2 there because the upshot of keeping a Courser in play is huge, even if it's just for 1 more turn.
And there's the carry added. And Boswell will just pass the turn back, so Batista's going to untap and draw. Adds a copy of Stormbred Dragon to the grip. But he knows that Boswell does have an answer to that. That said, might be able to catch him with the Stubborn Denial here.
Yeah, it is unknown currently from Boswell's side of the table. And it's basically his whole turn to cast any of the removal spells in his hand.
Yeah, and Monstrosity, because it's a 4/4, Ferocious is actually just turned on with Stubborn Denial. So, it does play this 4-spike role, counter-target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 1, but the Dragon is a 4/4, so Ferocious is on, so it's just a hard counter at this point for non-creature spells. Boswell's going to go moving some mana around here.
Stubborn Denial is a very powerful enabler for this deck.
Yeah, it's a really interesting card against non-creature spells, It would be very interesting if that could counter a creature as well, counter any spell, kind of a 4-spike that can counter any spell. It might be too good then.
Well, 4-spike is already, I think Wizards would say, not a card they would want legal and standard.
Sure.
So 4-spike that turns into a hard counter, probably off the table.
There's the Denial. Going to take care of the Dragon. Boswell going to deploy an Elvish Mystic before passing the turn back. Batista will draw a card. It's a copy of Temple of Mystery.
And that is a little bit excruciating there for Andre, because if he finds an untapped land there, he goes monstrous, and the Stoke in hand probably finishes off Boswell. Instead, we play on because Boswell is going to be able to kill the Stormbreath Dragon next turn with one of the removal spells left over in his hand.
Yeah, he's got another Hero's Downfall in the grip at this point. That protection from white from the Dragon will blank the other end that Boswell is holding on to. Unfortunately for Andrew, he does have a removal spell to get that flyer out of here. No, Stormbreath Dragon has done a lot of work in this game.
If Andre found an untapped land there, that would have been game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's... And it looked like Andre had nothing going this game, too, and it swung around that fast.
There's the downfall. Boswell hoping it's good, and it is.
Well, Andre's down to 1 card in hand, and Boswell's aware it's a Stoke.
Yep. Boswell will just pass the turn back. So Batista will draw a card. It's a Yavimaya Coast. Not what he's looking for, but he will play it. I'll just pass the turn back. So Boswell will untap here, take a draw. You have to imagine he's looking for a card like Siege Rhino. Just some way to get his life total a little bit higher. Johnny can help to find those cards. There is the Mentor of Heroes. 2 of those in the main deck for Boswell, so he will plus it, of course, as the elevator can only go up on a Johnny. Batista will take a look. We'll do the same. You look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may put an aura, creature, or planeswalker card from those. The rest go on the bottom.
I think they were just confirming there that Boswell does not have to reveal the 4 cards. He simply has to reveal whatever he takes.
Indeed. And Gaining 100 life could be attractive in this matchup, I suppose.
Well, I'm sure Boswell would take it if he can get to that
Yeah,
point.
I think that could be attractive. Boswell just going to play another copy of Sylvan Caryatid. Keep growing his mana before passing the turn. Batista will draw a card, a copy of Xenagos the Reveler. So Satyr tokens could be on their way.
Though Boswell has the ground pretty well locked up, and that is a feature of this Obzon mid-range deck. Xenagos is not bad because it can be a control sort of attrition battle, but this deck is so good at blocking on the ground that once you get to this stage of the game, it's hard for the Satyrs to matter very much.
There is your red-green Planeswalker.
Might as well make the Satyrs, because who knows, it could come up, but it's unlikely.
And we'll pass the turn back. See what Boswell can find this go around. He gets a draw step and some more looks at it there with a Johnny. The draw for the turn was a copy of Obzon Charm.
You got a feeling if Boswell is able to find a Siege Rhino, he probably has enough time to get to Ajani's ultimate.
3 and 4. Wingmate Rock, one of the cards that Boswell has found. He will take that, and I have a feeling we might see a rather dubious attack with an Elvish Mystic this turn. Don't mind me, just
Nothing to see here.
looking to attack for a moment, if you don't mind.
I drew a giant growth. I would like to attack with my Elvish Mystic.
See if Boswell does want to make that attack. Obzon Charm makes it so it's actually not that bad. You know, he can say, I'm going to go after your Xenagos, Satyr token blocks, and then Boswell can opt to use the Charm if he'd like.
I think he's happy to just throw this Elvish Mystic in the trash can and save the Charm for something else.
Yeah. Charm is quite a nice card.
Yeah,
so.
That Elvish Mystic is not doing very much even as a 3/3.
Raid has been fulfilled, and the Rock is here with a companion. So 2 3/4s will join the party.
Watching this Obzon mid-range deck in action, Stormbreath Dragon is absolutely an issue.
It's a really good card against them.
Yeah. Looking at a hand of Obzon Charm, Wingmate Rock, Utter End.
Yep. Pro White is solid. So he stoked the Flames and Sylvan Caryatid here for Batista. Looks like it's time for another 0-3 in just a moment. And again, Boswell knows that there's a Stoke over there. That Stoke might be reserved for Wingmate Rock now. Boswell going to draw a card. He draws a Sylvan Caryatid of his own. Johnny's elevator goes up. Boswell going to take a look at the top 4 again. Still feels like he's just looking for a Siege Rhino to put things away. Courser's not bad either, though.
He's looked at a lot of cards without finding a Siege Rhino at this point. Got to turn up sooner or later.
Here comes the Courser. Take a look at the top card. Ha-ha!
There we go.
It has been found. Boswell ready to start attacking. But a Stoke the Flames is going to try to slow down Wingmate Rock. We'll see if Boswell wants to use Obzon Charm on this. Seems like a pretty good target for the counters.
Absolutely. Well, the Obzon Charm can't kill anything relevant. Given Boswell's life total, I don't think he's really that interested in drawing cards. So, yeah, make your flyer 5/6. Gain some life.
It's time for the beatdowns in the air. See if Boswell's going to go at the life total or try to get rid of Xenagos. Again, Xenagos not really doing all that much, but he says, all right, I'm going to get this out of the way, gain a little bit of life in the process, and move forward accordingly. Get those Satyr tokens being taken care of by Courser. Sylvan Caryatid's a blocker as well. Siege Rhino on top of the deck, not in play. We're ready to come into play next turn. As Batista will untap empty-handed, draw himself a card. He was close this game. If he had drawn an untapped land for that Stormbreath Dragon, we might be in midway through game 2.
Stormbreath Dragon plus Stubborn Denial is a very impressive combo. It's worth noting. Even though this game has clearly gotten away from Andre at this point, an untapped land for mana number 7, as you mentioned, would have been a game winner.
Batista's going to go reaching for some mana here. I'll be a Goblin Rabble Master. That one's a little late to the party, too.
Just like Xenagos.
Yeah.
The bar was already shutting down, and you wander in at 1:50 a.m.
We're closed.
We're closed.
Last call was 30 minutes ago. Here is the attack. See Satyr tokens, and that Goblin token 100% has to attack. But I think Andre's kind of coming to the same conclusion that we are, is that there's really no getting out of this one for him now.
Yeah.
Boswell's just too far ahead. He's got Siege right on top of his deck, Corsair providing an advantage, and a Giant taking up as well. We can't forget about the Flyers, too. And that's what I think makes this deck pretty powerful, is that it comes at you from a lot of different angles.
A lot of high individual power, pretty light on synergy, but just a lot of very good draws.
Yeah. So it makes it tough. Boswell going to tap all those lands. Siege Rhino going to be added to the grip, along with an Utter End that he's had for some time. Top card, a copy of Avzon Charm. And now Johnny can start going on the offensive, start putting counters places.
It's one of those decks where, you know, it can definitely stumble early on because of its lands, and the mana is not that efficient early on in the game, but it feels like once you get to turn 4, turn 5, and it's my spells against your spells, you have to get pretty lucky to win, or something weird has to happen.
Yeah.
It's hard to lose a punch for punch fight with Abzan mid range, and game 1 there, a very good demonstration.
Yeah, we just saw a punch for punch fight, and Boswell punched harder once he got his mana online.
Yeah.
He punched much harder than Batista did. Back here in the booth for trivia time. Patrick's got the rules. I have the question.
So for you first-time viewers, Cedric will ask you a question. You will tweet your answer at SCG Live and hashtag SCG Premium. Of the correct responses, one will be selected at random for 3 months of Star City Games premium content. It's about accuracy and not speed, so don't worry about answering first. Just answer accurately, and please keep in mind that this giveaway is run at the sole discretion of StarCityGames.com, and that Twitch TV is in no way responsible for giveaways on its streams.
Pretty simple one here for 3 months. Grand Prix New Jersey happening in November. Going to be a sweet tournament. Looking
Just saw an
forward to
ad for it, most likely.
That is likely true. Patrick, myself, and Matthias Hunt will bring you guys the coverage along with the SCG Live crew. The big question is, for that format, what is the format?
What is the format? Again, tweet your answer at SCG Live, hashtag SCG Premium, and make sure that you're following us on Twitter at SCG Live, so if you win, we can get that response over to you.
We'd like to do that.
We would like to do that.
We want to be able to give you the 3 months of premium. So again, what is the format for Grand Prix New Jersey? If you get this wrong,
shame on you.
Be pretty impressive.
Shame on you. MagicGP.com has the information. The ad we just run had the information. Google has the answer. You know,
your friend,
your buddy that's on, you know, Google Messenger with you, whatever, they have the answer. It's easy to find the answer. 3 free months, Star City Games Premium. Just tweet that answer at SCG Live. Again, hashtag SCG Premium.
We believe in you. Sideboard time. We'll take a look here. Andre Batista does have a Reclamation Sage, 2 copies of Eidolon the Great Revel, 4 copies of Disdainful Stroke, 2 Feed the Clan, 2 Lightning Strike, 2 Magma Spray, 1 Windstorm, and 1 Harnessed by Force. Gotta like the strokes here.
I think they are excellent in this matchup. Fighting over Siege Rhino, Wingmate Rock, Ajani, the life gain elements seem really important for Batista to fight over. And I like the idea of him going into more of a get ahead on the board early on in the game, which his deck is capable of doing, and then use counter spells like Disdainful Stroke, like Stubborn Denial to keep Boswell off of his action.
The other side, we have 3 Boblights, 2 Murderous Cut, an Unravel the Aether, a Liliana Vest, 2 Nissa World Waker, 3 copies of Drowned Sorrow, and then those Wraths, Dune Blast, and Hostilities, and Mass Calcify. You have to imagine those are going to be the heavy hitters.
Well, I do like End Hostilities in the matchup. Once you start talking about 7 mana spells, well then Stubborn Denial and Disdainful Stroke become big problems. So I don't know if he's going to want to go that far down the rabbit hole with the sweepers. Maybe he brings in all 3, but I think he starts incurring some real risks once he starts talking about the 7 mana ones. I think the 2 Murderous Cuts are very easy additions here.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty easy start.
Good answer, Stormbreath Dragon. Yes, it gets hit by Disdainful Stroke, but it can be very efficient, and especially if he's chaining together with other removal spells or with Thoughtseize, whatever the case may be.
Now, of course, when we do have updates for you guys on other matches, we will let you know. Elliot Wojcicki Our number 4 overall seed playing Obzon mid-range, playing against Trevor Humphreys, playing Jeskai Aggro. That's our backup match. Those guys are doing battle right now. We've also got Steven Jack, our 3 seed, playing Green-Black Devotion against David Shields, our 6 seed, playing Jeskai Aggro. And then our 2 versus 7, Scott Robbins with his innovative take on Obzon. He's got some copies of Johnny's Pride Mate in his main deck against Dylan Murphy playing Mono Red. That's our 2 versus 7. So again, whenever we do have updates on any of those matches for you guys, we'll let you know, as I imagine there's some rooting interest at home.
And Mono Red to me is the elephant in the room of the format. When you look at these sideboards, you know, Boswell here with 3 copies of Drowned Sorrow in his sideboard, I'm sure he would love to change those slots into something that was more applicable for the mirror match or for Jeskai. But it's hard to get away from cards like that as long as Mono Red is still a deck in the format. So to me, it's very interesting to keep track of how much Mono Red, how much Boss Sly is doing well, making the top 8 of big tournaments, because that's going to inform a lot of sideboarding in the format.
Dylan Murphy playing Mono Red, currently up a game over Scott Robbins. Then David Shields with his Jeskai Aggro deck, currently up a game over Steven Jack, playing Green-Black Devotion. So again, when we do have more updates for you guys, we will let you know. But we do turn our attention back here to Boswell and Batista. Batista will be on the play for game number 2. You know, if you just tuned in, maybe at the back of that match looked like Boswell was certainly in control of things. But truth be told, Batista does draw that untapped land for Stormbreath Dragon's Monstrosity activation. It's a different story.
It is a very different game. Or if Boswell does not have a second copy of Hero's Downfall, the Stormbreath Dragon may just go unchecked.
Yeah. As you mentioned, Stormbreath Dragon is a good one against these Obzon mid-range decks. Cards like Utter End, not going to get the job done. And it looks like Trevor Humphreys with Jeskai is now up a game against Elliot Wachowski. Again, that's our backup mask, and if we have the opportunity to move that way, we certainly will.
We discussed at length on the broadcast yesterday, Stormbreath Dragon versus Sarkhan. Sarkhan's probably a more objectively powerful card, but Stormbreath definitely has its merits, and I think the Obzon mid-range matchup is going to be one of the things that keeps Stormbreath Dragon prevalent in the format, at least for the time being.
Yeah, I think so too.
Wingmate Rock, Obzon Charm, Utter End.
Stormbreath Dragon is just a really good Magic card.
Yep.
There's also that. Even in its kind of mediocre bad match, still a 4/4 flyer with haste. And if it goes unchecked, it gets the job done by itself. We all know that.
We're in a world now where there's no copies of Doomblade, there's no copies of Ultimate Price floating around. These were the things that were really oppressive towards Stormbreath Dragon. Now, there's Hero's Downfall, which is 3 mana versus 2, so that's a big difference for tempo. Also, people's Hero's Downfalls are taxed doing a million different things.
Yeah, there's so many Planeswalkers running around now.
And then some of the other removal spells, you know, they're base white, and Stormbreath is just immune to them outright. So I believe it's a card that has gotten better on the rotation.
Yeah, I think so too. Now, of course, how do you split that between Sarkhan? I think that's the big question. And players will figure that out eventually.
Yeah, it's, you know, I would imagine that if you have 4 slots, most players are going to default to a 2-2 split. But it's a metagame question. It's a matchup question.
It'd be a fun to kind of watch people try to figure out what the best Stormbreath Dragon home is, too. You know, I agree with you. The combo, for lack of a better term, with that and Stubborn Denial looks pretty potent.
That is a real thing. Seeing that for the first time, that's a real thing.
Yeah, looks pretty potent. It seems to always be at least 1 mana kind of lying around.
Yeah, you can definitely find spare mana. And also just Force Spike a non-creature, well, that's going to make it problematic to be playing your Planeswalkers on time. It's a card you have to worry about all the time.
Hero's Downfall isn't cheap.
It is not.
Yeah. Wouldn't be surprised if we see more Stubborn Denials moving forward. Wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Well, I think you have to have the Ferocious enabled consistently. Compared to something like Heir of the Wilds, if you're playing games where half the time you have Ferocious and half the time you don't, Heir of the Wilds is probably still fine because a 2/2 Death Touch for 2 is an acceptable Magic card. I don't think you can bat 50% on your Stubborn Denials and still play it because you really need to have the Ferocious enabled for that card to be powerful.
Yeah, I think that's true. Scott Robbins does win game number 2 here with his Obzon mid-range deck with the Johnny's Pride Mates. Again, if you guys have not seen that deck list, definitely head over to our coverage page and check that out. He and his buddies actually playing very similar decks. We had one version of the deck make the top 16, and now another one here in Scott making the top 8 again. A Johnny's Pride Mate with some lands that do gain in life in Blossoming Sands and Jungle Hollow. Courser of Crufix, you put a land in play, gain a life there. Sorin gives creatures lifelink. Wingmate Rock will gain some life as well. Deck is kind of built with that in mind, and it is no joke.
It's interesting. What's better against beatdown decks, Jungle Hollow or Land War Waste? Because it is really an open question. What's better, to cast your spells on time or to be a little bit off curve, but be gaining life along the way instead of taking damage?
It is pretty close.
I think that when you have a Haymaker in your deck, like Drown in Sorrow, I'd rather be gaining the life. But when you have to play even to even, I'd rather be just casting my spells on time.
Looks like Batista's going to take a mulligan here. See if Boswell's happy.
Another interesting thing from that match that we saw, or that game that we saw just now, rather, was how Andre managed the Kiora. He had no interest in trying to have Kiora be a significant influence on that game.
I was a little surprised by that.
Just minused it in the face of an open Courser attack.
Just knowing that it's going to die.
Yeah. Use it as just draw a card, take 2 points, absorb 2 points of damage.
I mean, ideally trying to hit a land off of that to put another land into play the Explore effect, but clearly did not work out for him there.
He didn't even have anything to ramp into because he drew the Storm Breath Dragon off of the Kiora activation.
Yeah.
His hand at the time was a bunch of 4s, Stoke the Flames and his other Kiora.
See if Batista can find a better 6 here. Saw Boswell keep his 7 pretty quickly. A lot of forest over there. Sylvan Caryatid, the last card that Batista found. That might be the one that ties the room together, but he doesn't look thrilled.
Well, 3 forests that's not the lands he wants to see.
Yeah, not at all.
No Scryland off of his mulligan, and you may not even be able to cast a Savage Knuckleblade even with the Caryatid, although now with the Shivan Wreath that he's drawn, he should be fine.
And there is the Caryatid. Boswell started off things off with the Sandstep Citadel. So he'll draw a card, picks up a copy of Elspeth. There's a Caves of Kolios, and this looks like a Caryatid on his side as well. So both players do have the mana acceleration and the fixing. Wooded Foothills to draw here for Batista. You see he's got a Disdainful Stroke in his hand. Also has a Savage Knuckleblade as well. I think the question now is, does he actually want to play the Knuckleblade on this board? He can play it, give it haste, get the beatdowns in, but won't be able to protect it.
Although, how's he going? If he's worried about, say, Hero's Downfall, well, the Disdainful Stroke gives him no protection there anyway.
Yeah. The big trick here, I guess, is, you play the Knuckleblade next turn when you have the ability to actually pay to bounce it. I think is what he's trying to set up here. Just playing it kind of naked is really not the best spot to be in.
It's a huge risk.
Yeah.
And Boswell's deck has a lot of removal in it. Especially, Andre's mulliganed. This Knuckleblade may be really the only thing going on with his hand.
The only threat that he has right now. And it might just be better on this turn, truthfully, just to leave up Disdainful Stroke. I think there's a world where that exists. That said, Boswell is going to play a Courser of Grufix. Take a look at the top card. It's a copy of Elspeth. That's a nice Disdainful Stroke target.
I think with one already in hand that Boswell may look to shuffle this one away.
Looks like he's going to go with the Plains, though. So he will be drawing Elspeth next turn no matter what. Could have played Windswept Teeth and shuffled it away, but Boswell basically saying, I would like to draw Elspeth. I don't mind having 2 of those, as Temple of Epiphany is the draw here for Batista.
The issue here with this, play the Knuckleblade and leave up Disdainful Stroke play is you're doing that in lieu of giving it haste. So, Boswell's going to be aware of what that implies. The Disdainful Stroke's in the hand, and he's going to try to work around it as best he can.
Yeah, I think, if he plays Savage Knuckleblade with the 2 mana available, you're leaving up the ability to either cast a Disdainful Stroke or bounce a Knuckleblade back to your hand so it doesn't die to a removal spell. So even though it is a little bit transparent that he might have Disdainful Stroke, the fact that you can protect your Knuckleblade too, I think is pretty important.
Sure.
So we're just going to sack that.
Well, see, I understand. Basically, the conundrum here is how long do you wait on this Knuckleblade versus, because it's your only threat, versus, I guess, have to get something going at some point. I can't sit here the entire game and wait.
Oh, it looks like he's moving in now. Yep. He's going to give it haste, so enough is enough. Time to attack.
Though he's willing to move in now, having not drawn action, I guess he should have been willing to move in the previous turn.
Because I don't think his draw of Temple of Epiphany really affected anything. Though, I mean, he gets the scry.
Yeah, maybe the top card influences it.
Maybe he's just lost some patience. Because now, you know, Courser's starting to go to work.
Well, let's say there's another Savage Knuckleblade on top of his deck, then you can be a little more liberal throwing this one away.
Sure. Aha. This can't come as much of a surprise.
Yeah. Like I said, I think the End Hostilities is coming in for sure. Whether he wants to go to the 7-mana options because he's playing against so many counter spells, that's an open question, but End Hostilities should be very good in these games.
Yep, there's Downfall. And that's not really too surprising. You know, this deck does have Downfalls. It does have copies of Utter End as well. Looks like Courser's going to come into the red zone here for 2. And again, this, even though Batista's mulligan isn't all that great as he draws a copy of Stormbreath Dragon, that one's pretty nice, though, and Hostilities is staring him back in the face. It's this situation, right, where the longer we go, things get better for Boswell. Courser starts to build its advantage over the game. Oh, looks like Boswell's going to sacrifice away the Hostilities.
There's also just less synergies going on in Boswell's deck, too. A lot of Andre's cards, especially the counter spells, are sort of predicated on the game going a particular way or his board state looking like something. Boswell's deck is just, these are removal spells. These are good threats. I can just cast them on empty boards. I don't have to worry about anything.
It's very Jund-esque.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the top card. Another Courser. That'll be Boswell's draw for the turn. Is there a land? No, just a very powerful discard spell instead.
You can see that Andre is trying to set up a Stormbreath Dragon with Disdainful Stroke, a backup. So even though we're at turn, you know, pretty late in the game here, relatively speaking, this Thoughtseize is still going to be very powerful.
Yeah. You can see, like, the way this game has gone, Boswell has had the opportunity to cast Siege Rhino.
Yeah.
And he's just not doing it. He's very mindful of Disdainful Stroke.
Especially since Andre's play has been so suspicious so far.
Heir of the Wild's the draw. Very easy for Boswell to slam down expensive cards. But now Thoughtseize kind of gets to clear the way for the stroke. And then Boswell basically sees that the coast is clear and I can just kind of do my thing. And also with a Thoughtseize staring back at you, I think if you're Batista, it's like, okay, I better cast this dragon now.
Yeah.
So the dragon will be cast.
And in fact, I think he should also be casting this Heir of the Wild too, because I don't think there's any hope that this Disdainful Stroke counters anything.
Sure, with the Thoughtseize staring back at you. Yeah.
Please come up to the stage right now. Once again, this is the last call to sign up.
Boswell going to tap here for taking 4.
I guess Andre could hope there's some chance that Boswell would shuffle away the Thoughtseize with the Windswept Heath, but that's not happening at this stage.
Boswell goes a reach in pretty quick. It's time for Thoughtseize. There's the stroke and the air.
You can see Boswell immediately move the Siege Rhino to the front of his hand.
Yeah.
That will do just fine, thanks.
It's time for the big guy.
With Murderous Cut on top of the deck, too.
Yeah. It's a good spot to be in. Attack with the Coursers here. One Courser will be blocked. And now it's a Rhino. Now we can't forget, Monstrosity on the Dragon is a thing.
It's a lot of
That can
damage.
happen, yeah. Wouldn't surprise me if it does happen. Boswell's got that Elspeth in his hand. Don't get a great look at the draw there. I think it may have been Sarkin. But Monstrosity on the Dragon seems pretty appealing at this point.
And this is where the Heir of the Wild's play from last turn is significant.
Yeah.
Right now, with the Stormbreath Dragon represents, I believe, 10 points of damage with the Monstrosity trigger. And that would probably mean that you would be able to trade your Heir of the Wilds with the Siege Rhino.
Take a little trample on the way out the door, but
No, I mean, he could attack this turn with his
Oh,
air,
sure,
and Boswell
sure.
probably has to block.
Sure, okay. Where's an attack? No monstrosity activation.
I think he has to go monstrous this turn.
I think so too.
All Legacy Open.
I don't know what else he's playing to.
You know, I think there's a world where, you know, he's gonna play Sarkin and do something with it, but if you're not gonna play Sarkin and attack with it, you know, you're not really killing anything of consequence with the minus ability. And with a Murderous Cut staring back at you for your Stormbreath Dragon, you have to get the most out of it.
You gotta cash in your chips while you can.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that Andre is also not long for this world right now. He's probably dead in 2 turns.
Yeah, it doesn't take long for him to close out the game, right?
Yeah.
He's just gonna pass the turn back. A little surprised by that sequence of events. It just doesn't feel like he accomplishes very much on that turn. Thoughts he's on top of the deck now.
I think this is worth shuffling away at this stage.
Yeah, I don't think Boswell needs another Thoughtseize. Dave Shields going to win this match over Steven Jack. 2-0. Jeskai moving on to our semifinals. Actually going to play against Dylan Murphy as Mono Red has won.
Okay.
And I've actually never seen Jeskai play against Mono Red, so I have no idea how it goes.
I think that Jeskai is a pretty solid matchup.
Takes him a little while to get off the ground.
Yeah, it depends. A lot of it depends on how many Magma Sprays you have in the sideboard. That's a big influence too.
See what Boswell's up to on this turn.
Looks like we're in pure damage race mode now.
Yeah. Bile Blight there, the Wilds. Let's get some damage in. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got a Murderous Cut at the ready for your dragon, so what's the worst that could happen, really, right?
Yep.
Boswell going to consult the grip. Confidently pass the turn back. He's at such a high life total that, you know, what's the worst that could happen, right?
Exactly. And he just drew.
Stoke the Flames.
So, if he had deployed Sarkin or gone monstrous, we would at least have a game right now.
Yep. Just a little bit too conservative on the previous turn. I just don't really think he knew what he wanted to accomplish on that turn.
Yeah. I think he was maybe too focused on trying to maximize all of his resources when it's just the game's about mana and time.
Yeah. Time is not something he has a lot of.
Yeah.
And the longer things go, the worse things get for him.
You need to do what you can do. Maybe you lose, but you just have to cast the stuff that you can cast.
Yeah. There's Sarkin. It's going to go up. But again, the issue now is he knows that Boswell has a Murderous Cut. Here's an attack, and Stormbreath Dragon's actually hanging back on defense now.
And I don't think there's any way for Andre to block this coming turn, assuming that the Murderous Cut goes on the Stormbreath Dragon.
Mm-hmm. And now this is a situation where it wouldn't surprise me if Boswell says, I'll keep the Thoughtseize on top of my deck.
Out of respect for stubborn denial.
Yeah, I just want to clear the way.
Disdainful stroke.
I think that world exists.
Well, you only, as long as you kill the Stormbreath Dragon, nothing bad can happen.
Yeah.
He has lethal on the attack, so.
Looks like Boswell's just going to cast the Murderous Cut now. This could end up being a little risky if he did have stubborn denial, but I think this is going to work out okay for Boswell.
Worst case scenario is Boswell has an Elspeth as backup.
Sure.
Which the game gets hairy now because of the Sarkin, but we know that Batista's hand is just a stoke that he can't cast.
Oh, so there goes the dragon. That road's clear. Boswell going to sacrifice the fetch line here. Go down to 7 and then up to 9. Says, I don't want a Thoughtseize. I just want to make sure I do everything correctly here before what looks to be a victory here for a #1 overall seed. Still has not lost a match with this deck.
Nope.
And it does look mighty powerful. I will say that. I've been impressed every game that I've watched.
Once you get past turn 3, you know, the first couple turns can be hairy, but once you get past that.
utter end the draw. Bile Blight on top. You see the hand looks like 2 Elspeths over there. Yeah, and that's going to do it. Andrew Boswell's going to win this match over Andre Batista. 2-0. Obs on mid-range, going to take it down yet again and move on to our semifinals to play the winner of Trevor Humphreys and Elliot Wojcicki. That match, I believe, is in game number 2. Trevor Humphreys with the Jeskai aggro, currently up a game over Wojcicki, playing Obs on mid-range.
And I think that, as lopsided as both of those games kind of look towards the end there, they were a lot closer than they sort of appeared on the surface. Andre wins game 1 with a untapped land there.